Hello everybody, welcome back. And I've got a webcam. It cost me £1 off Amazon, and it's brand new. It said it was HD, but it's actually only 480p. So that might have been HD 10 years ago. Don't think that classes as HD anymore. Never mind, you're not here to look at my face. We're here to look at some charts, and let's look at Bitcoin, Matic, XRP, and Ethereum. So let's get started then, shall we? So first of all, let's start with Bitcoin. Bitcoin on the 4-hourly, looking pretty tired, unfortunately. We did have this death cross, and the death cross, in my book, suggests that it should technically want to play out a little bit further. We're measuring this out from that price action, to be generous, from there to there. We only pulled back not even 6.25. So generally, that I would expect to see a bit more of a downtrend from that, but you know, there's a few things in its favour. The first thing would not be the MACD, which looks like it's going to do a negative cross if we don't have a move soon. That doesn't look good. We're actually in negative territory already, so really we need to see some decent. We need to see some price action to the up to avoid that. We could easily avoid that, but technically it's all looking quite bearish with the MACD there. RSI looks like, and it's made lower highs and technically lower lows. Yeah, I mean it has just made lower lows. Let's have a look a bit closer. Yeah, so that's a lower low. So that none of that looks good on the short-term time frame. So yes, it could come down, and it looks like it wants to come down a little bit more, maybe to test some of these previous ranges that we've bounced on quite successfully over these 4 hours here. That price action being around about as low as 8,520, we'll call it thereabouts. But when you look at other time frames, such as the daily, for instance, it doesn't look quite so bad. I mean, yes, it's bearish. MACD is in bearish territory. We do have a little bit of bullish divergence on that. MACD, I mean, it came down to a level where I would be comfortable at buying it, and I basically did. But it still looks pretty tired. The problem I got now with it is there's a few things, and this is for the bearish take on it, right? Bearish would suggest that Ichimoku Cloud Cross here suggests continuation of the move down from here. So we've continued down clearly. This is usually a bit more of a longer term time frame analysis indicator here. So it might mean that a downtrend is going to continue. There's no signs to say that that's letting up anytime soon. So that's bearish. But this is a slow moving indicator, so trends will change, and this will only confirm the trend change. So, you know, as you can see, we were going down from here, we only got that confirmation here, and the trend's still going down here. So it doesn't mean that the trend can't change to the up without this happening. This usually happens to say, okay, you're good to go for a little bit longer. That's the way I would play that cross. So yeah, the cross would have been a good short from this area, but it doesn't tell you how far it's going to go. No indicators which could really do that. The thing is, we've been held up here on the 200 EMA, which is a good sign. This is where you don't want to break beneath this level. And for a lot of you watching, you're on my Telegram group anyway. It's like I'm preaching to the choir, so you all know this. No one wants to break down beneath the 200 EMA. That would be bearish. But breaking down beneath there and then that becoming resistance would suggest bearish trends and a struggle basically to get back above it. So we're not below there yet, but we have tested it several times, and I do think, where do we come down to? Yeah, if we come down to that level again, it meets up with that 8,520 that we saw on the 4 hour time frame. So we're testing that range, that level of support a lot. We tested it quite a few times back here, which is basically the daily 200 EMA. So I do think we could come down to test that level again, and it's a matter of hoping that we bounce from there, because if we don't bounce from there, then yeah, it would be downtrending at that point. I'd be pretty confident to suggest that we might even have another $1,000 move to the down to go, maybe even a little longer, because like I say, long-term time frame wise would say that yep, this is going to play out until further notice. We'll be beneath the 200 EMA, which is bearish. And where do we fall from there? We've got about 8,000 be psychological number, I suppose. I suppose 8,100 to 8,200 would be our first opportunity for a bounce there. Also, that would bring us down to where the bottom of the Bollinger Band is right now. But again, it's a matter of seeing how we react to that. If we come down to that level, if we react and bounce but get rejected at the 200 EMA, then it's bearish for me. who knows? Who knows? Another problem I've got is that now a lot of these indicators, these moving averages are facing down now. So the longer that we play out this range down here without moving up at least to the centre of the Bollinger Band, which is going to be all the way up at 9,300, that means that gravity is going to take effect, and basically we will be getting pushed down as each of these offers significant resistance. As you can see, we've been rejected here. That's the 9 EMA. We've been rejected from there, and rejected again, and it looks like we're getting close to that again. So that's the 10 simple. That's the 9 EMA. More or less the same kind of thing. Being rejected on the first smallest indicator that I use of any significance. So you can see that if we're being rejected from these, we'll be rejected from the 50, we'll be rejected from the centre of the Bollinger Band, certainly. So it does look like it's going to be a bit of a struggle, to be honest with you, to make a break, and we need to do it soon. There's going to be a move, I would say, in the next 24 to 48 hours with Bitcoin, and my gut feeling tells me it's going to be to the down. But I'm hoping it's not going to be the case. I'm hoping that it does bounce from there. But my gut feeling does tell me it's going to be to the down. This does look bearish now that you look at it and you bear all that in mind. The only thing that's stopping it from being effectively completely bearish is the fact that we've been supported on the 200 EMA all this time. And I'm holding that as significant. So what I would say for me, and I'm not a financial advisor, this is what I'll be doing personally, I would be going long on this 8,520 area, which is the 200 EMA, and I would have a stop loss shortly down, maybe to around about, to be safe, I would probably say below these wicks, just to be safe, maybe around 8,350. That would be my stop loss, because if we do bounce from here, it could be the bounce that continues all the way up, and if we break down from here, then it doesn't take long for me to recognise that. I'll take the hit, and I'll submit a nice short from there. But again, at the moment, it's the bottom level now. This is the last stand for it to make a bullish move. Now, when we look at indicators, other indicators on shorter time frames, what we have here is almost across on the 4 hourly, and again, negative territory still, and if that crosses, it would certainly be bearish in the short term, which would lead into the long term. This is a bearish, even though it looks like there wants to be a change here, it does look bearish still. So all indicators generally look bearish. But that doesn't mean that it's definitely bearish. The bottom line is that 200 EMA. So let's have a look at Matic then, shall we? So the Matic did some epic moves, and I am guilty. I don't do videos as often as I would, and I would normally do them on Matic, but I do believe that I did do a little analysis on Matic on my last video, and from what I saw, it did look like it wanted to do some moves. Feel free to go back and fact check that, but I did expect to see a big move from Matic, and we got that big move. So the obvious choice for that move, if you were in it, would have been to sell at 2.7 cent, which has been this significant resistance level. Breaking above there would be super turbo bullish, because and again, you know, you watch my channel, I assume most of you watch my channel most of the time. This is the area where we were rejected from twice after this parabolic move, and this is the area where once we broke above it, we essentially went parabolic again before we just completely collapsed on ourselves here. So the reason I thought that this was going to be bullish when I looked at my Matic chart the last time I looked at it was simply on the 4 hourly. 4 hourly was looking good. We broke down from here, that's fine. We've been teetering, waiting for this golden cross to form on the 4 hourly. It almost formed here. You could argue that it did form here. We pulled back down beneath it, and then we eventually did form here. That was a clear golden cross on the 4 hourly, suggesting that there would be a short-term but significant pump, and that's what we got. So let's just say from a generous standpoint, from there to there, 35% we'll call it. That is a big move for a golden cross on a 4 hourly over the space of a couple of days. Good call there for Matic. I'm not saying that, you know, I made the most of that. I always have a little bit of Matic, but I don't trade like I used to, unfortunately. So it's kind of I didn't put anywhere near as much as I'd like to into it. One of the main reasons is because of this, and it's kind of scared me away from it. I like to use indicators. I like to balance up the risk and reward, and a setup like that is generally pretty low risk. But given the fact if you go back in time and see what happens to this coin, it doesn't feel that low risk anymore when you zoom out and see actually how this coin does behave. So yeah, big bold move. First rejection point at 2.7 cent, which is basically the magic number for Matic. Breaking above there goes super bullish, because it's a significant resistance. Staying below there is not a problem, but we need to stay above 2 cents. So what I really would like to see with Matic would be an area of accumulation of between 2 cent and 2.7 cent, which is basically where we are right now. We could come back up here to test this range, and I would probably imagine a rejection from there again, just because that's a big move for Matic already. I don't really know what caused this, other than the fact that there was a golden cross. People on my Telegram post a lot of things, and it does look as though they've made a major breakthrough recently with they're going to be operating behind the scenes of Bitcoin, which is an unbelievable advancement for them as a company, and their use case would be it would be huge. They're basically Ethereum, behind the scenes of Ethereum, and now Bitcoin. I mean, you couldn't really ask for much more than that, to be honest with you. I mean, that's pretty much their achievement. It's just now we're waiting for both Bitcoin and Ethereum to basically be mass adopted. And if they are mass adopted, if they're used more frequently, Matic will certainly be used more frequently. Now, I don't know if these things have been implemented yet. I don't pay attention too much to the fundamentals of things, which is why I like to stick to my charts. But I mean, just going off on a tangent in a little bit there, but I mean, that sounds like a really big deal. That sounds like something that would cause a pump if it comes to fruition. That's a use case for you right there. But anyway, going back to the chart, yeah, that 4 hours playing out, and this isn't a 4 hours, this is a daily, but the 4 hour played out, and now we're being rejected from there. So maybe we'll see another move up to there, but for me, I've sold it now. I'll be waiting to see what happens after this. But buying it back, certainly if we break above 2.7 cent and hold above 2.7 cent on a daily candle, I'll be buying it back definitely after that point. I know that sounds silly, but the reason I do that is because these areas are areas of significance. I could be buying it here in the hope that it goes all the way up and past 2.7 cent, but it might not. So I will be buying it back after 2.7 cent, and I may be buying it back depending on how bad this pullback is. I mean, the pullback, let's have a look. This rejection now is already down 9%, so you know that's quite big. Let's just wait and see. We're still way out of the daily Bollinger Band there, so usually you would expect to see any asset, especially one that's been rejected like this, to come back inside the Bollinger Band and maybe even pull back to the centre. So we'll see what happens. So stay away from Matic for the moment, and we'll see where it pulls back to. Right, let's have a look at some of these others then, just very briefly. We'll look at Ethereum. So Ethereum to me is still a very bullish chart. On the daily we had our golden cross. It's looking relatively bearish, but not that bad, but it does look bearish, let's face it. We have on the 4 hourly, let's have a look at this. Sorry, I used to smoke a long time ago. I'm addicted to nicotine inhalers. Sorry about that. On the 4 hourly, no death cross yet, so that's good. So still more bullish than Bitcoin. MACD's made its negative cross in negative territory, so that's not good. RSI is coming down too. So there's a lot of bearish indicators for Ethereum still. So Ethereum doesn't look that great overall, but it doesn't have those basically death crosses, which is good to see. Personally, you can make the argument that this here is going to be a bull flag, but that looks a bit steep for it to be a bull flag. that drop in price there is very steep for it to be a bull flag. We're above the green 50, which is where we're being supported from here, which is great actually. And as you see with Bitcoin, we're being supported on the 200 exponential. With Ethereum, it's actually the 50 exponential, so a lot stronger than Bitcoin, which to me would suggest that if we do go bullish, Ethereum's going to go really bullish, way more than Bitcoin. And if we were to be sort of, I suppose, break down from this level, we do have this level here, the $190 mark, which is where we are right now, on the 200 exponential, which both of these are still facing upwards, even though when we look a bit closer, we see all the other sort of smaller time frame what's happened to my brain? Moving averages kind of facing down, so gravity's sort of kicking in at this point now. So we really do need to start making moves on these big coins now, in order to avoid a bearish downtrend, which would be prolonged. It could go on for weeks or maybe months, And you could argue that coronavirus is playing a part of that. Of course, it could be, but let's look at the chart and we'll work out what's going on with the chart. Let's not talk about coronavirus because I can't account for that kind of thing. So let's move on to XRP then. XRP, a terrible call from me. I got very excited about this, and I made some decent money from it, but I was hoping to make a lot more. What I was seeing on this was that we broke out of this descending trend we've been in for a long time, a 2-year period. We broke out of it. I was very excited. I went long on this, made quite a fair bit of money. I was hoping that this would continue, and it certainly did not continue at all. In fact, it broke down. It's broken back down beneath the descending trend. We never even got a golden cross on the daily. On the 4-hourly, this is probably going to look horrendous. 4-hourly death cross, all major moving averages above us. So yeah, very bad call from me there. Unless, of course, you heard me when I was talking about it back here, and then it was a good call. But after then, terrible call. We were supported on the descending trends, so there's significance to it. We supported here, had a nice bounce from it. Supported here, had another bounce from it. Broke down beneath it, and we basically died. And now we are basically looking like we're dead. I don't like the look of it at all, to be honest with you. We'll go back to our daily chart. Oops, go back to the daily chart on here. Sorry, I apologise for the production value today, and the production value full stop, because it's basically non-existent. It doesn't give a good impression of an altcoin or cryptocurrency trader, but you've got to bear in mind I'm from Yorkshire, which basically means that I cut costs at every opportunity. So I'm not prepared to have a nice background. I'm not prepared to have a decent webcam, and the best thing I've got is my mic, and that's pretty crap as well. So let's get back onto the chart then, just to round this video up. XRP is looking horrendous. It's looking so bad. Let's go on to our weekly just very briefly to see what we see here. Well, on a weekly, the only thing we've got going for us is that we have an Ichimoku cloud cross here, which is bullish, and the chart it's relatively long term. So that to me would suggest that yes, that we do have the opportunity to continue with a bullish trend for the longer term time frame. That has not long been forged. So even though we've come all the way down from that week, let's just measure it from the bottom of that cross on the week. We've come all the way down 15%. If we were to measure it from the top of that, and this is going to look awful, measure it from the top of that, down 34%. that is still a bullish sign. So let's hold on to that. Let's have a look on the weeklies on some of these. I imagine all of these will have the same kind of cross. Yeah, we go across here, so that's still bullish, and I imagine that will stay bullish for Ethereum. Matic is not going to be very relevant because there's not many weeks on Matic. So let's have a look what we do have here. We've actually got the opposite on Matic. So again, this is why you don't want to use itchy clouds on charts that aren't very big. So I mean that would say the opposite. But I mean the reason for that is because of this. You'd never see an Ichimoku cloud cross to the up here and then basically cross to the down here. You just don't get that. So we'll disregard that. And Bitcoin, I do believe, is up on the weekly. Let's have a look at that. So yeah, we did have, and we still do have, and it's actually looking pretty good actually on Bitcoin. So yeah, we do have our Richie Cloud based on conversion line cross on the weekly. So long-term time frames, these all still look good. Short-term time frames, not quite so good. So I know that's kind of what I said on my last video. Short-term looks like it wants to pull back still, but long-term it's not. And I'm talking a couple of months. We're technically still in a bullish trend. So bullish for the long term, like as in like 2-3 months, bearish in the short term, which could be 2 to 3 weeks. That's generally how this looks to me overall. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there. Thanks for watching, and yeah, take it easy. Have a good one.